Oh, going back, I forgot to bring this up. I was thinking about it. Now, when a student here goes to counseling, they get to kind of put in recommendations for what kind of like type of counselor or what area of expertise they want the counselor to have. Now, what advice do you have for them in like selecting the right counselor for them? Or should they, kind of go in blindly like you and it's going to end up okay? Or
I would definitely recommend being as transparent as possible. Like, hey, if you are a minority or a person of color, can I talk to somebody of color? A big part of counseling is feeling comfortable. And a lot of times you feel more comfortable with somebody who looks like you. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case for everybody, but for some students, especially if you're already hesitant about going in there, it may help to do that. But definitely be open about, hey, so I feel more comfortable talking to a woman. I feel more comfortable talking to a man. I feel more comfortable talking to a person of color. I think that's really important because the initial sit down, you're going to feel a measure of vulnerability. So you want to talk to somebody who you can kind of identify with and that you're comfortable with, whether that's gender or race.
Yeah, because I even had a student who she went in, for the her kind of dealing with, and it actually had to do with an abortion, and she was assigned to a older woman older meaning she felt like the student felt like it was her grandmother. And so she had to switch. And like, that was okay. It's like, yeah, you can say, I feel like I'm talking to my grandmother and I would never talk to my grandmother about this. And that's okay. To say, I can't do it. Sorry. Absolutely. Thought I could. I can't. Switch me.
Switch. And don't feel bad about it and don't hesitate. If you don't feel comfortable, the thing about counseling is they're providing a service. And especially when you're on a university, the university is providing a service for you. So get whatever it is that you want. And if you don't feel comfortable talking to that person, then try somebody else. Like that's I think a prominent part of counseling, and especially for somebody who doesn't necessarily want to be there in the first place. You can go and not connect with your counselor, and then that was your one try. So hey, I tried, I didn't connect with my counselor. They were older, I didn't feel like they really understood me, and that was it. I'm not trying anymore.
Or some's like they just stared at me and said,
Yeah, and you hear about that too. Yeah. You hear about that. I've talked to students who have had a really bad experience with counselors, and sometimes you just may have a bad counselor. Like, not all counselors are equal, and to be honest, not all counselors are like really that good at their job.
Yeah, it's just like anything else.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's a risk with everything.
For sure.
Now, why would a college student need to go to counseling?
Man.
So, like, what's kind of just the fact that you're a college student means that you could benefit from working on your mental health or addressing your mental health?
Man, college is hard. So you have so many things on your plate. So you come in, and I think it's especially with this generation. So I'm 26. I was born in 1990. But with the students who are born in 1995, in 1996, 1997, and everything like that, they were born into a different generation. So they had Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter, all those things in middle school. So they're exposed to a lot more. They have a lot more. They can see a lot more at an earlier age, at an earlier part of their development. So, in a lot of ways, they're more developed when they get to college. In a sense, because they've seen so much. They have so much access at their fingertips. So, in a lot of ways, like the pressure of being able to go on the internet, go on social media and see that, hey, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing that. They got this internship, they got this scholarship, everything like that. This person is studying abroad, and then you instantly start to compare that to yourself, and then sometimes you can feel inadequate. So for college students, especially these students now, there's just so much on their plate. Like, you're worrying about getting a job, you're worrying about getting an internship, maintaining the GPA, maintaining your scholarship. If you have a scholarship, you have to have a certain GPA. There's just so much pressure, making sure that you're involved in extracurricular activities, make sure that you're in clubs and things like that. And then all while balancing that social aspect of being, having like a lot of friends. Relationships are huge, are a huge part, especially for a 19, 20, 21-year-old. So there's so many things that affect college students that, yeah, talking to somebody can really help. And I remember talking to my mom, and she's like, well, what would you need to go to counseling for? And I'm like, and my mom is older. My mom is 57. So she came up in a time where it was taboo to go to counseling, especially as an African-American woman. So you'll hear older adults say, you know, well, what do you need to go to that for? Like, what is really so hard about being a college student? And like, the answer is like almost everything.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, like, college is so exciting. And you're so lucky to go to college.
For sure.
College isn't the real world. They'll also say, like, wait till you get in the real world.
For sure.
But it actually is stressful.
Absolutely. There's stress at every turn. So, like, in a sense, like, that's right. Like, yeah, like, you are kind of lucky to be in college. Like, this is a excellent opportunity, but just because it's a great opportunity doesn't mean that there's not stressful things that come with that. So, yeah, like, yeah, that's true. Of course, like, yeah, you are lucky. It's a great experience and everything like that. But on the other side of that come plenty of things that can give you stress and anxiety.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the other piece with being a college student, like we've talked about, is, you know, race and gender kind of impacting that differently also. And I think it's in the last 3 to 4 years, they've focused the research on African American males, where they are the group that doesn't graduate like equal to their peers, and they're also the population that seeks out the least amount of extra support. So here's the population that needs the most support, but they're the least likely to get it.
For sure.
What are your thoughts on?
I have a lot of thoughts. So it's really interesting. So counseling was formed, the basis of counseling was formed with Western ideals. So basically white men, the theories and the concepts were normed off of white men. You're not a white man, so a lot of the things that come with those theories don't necessarily apply to you. So I remember vividly studying in graduate school, like, you know, different cultures and different techniques and different theories, and I'm thinking, like, man, this is like, I remember asking my professor during supervision, like, who is this normed off of? And he was just like, middle-aged white men. And because I'm reading this, I'm like, I don't identify with this at all. I don't agree with this at all. Like, who said that this is what who made this the template? So as a young African American man, you're going into a situation, for me as a counselor, going into a field that was normed off of people who don't identify with me. And at that time when it was formed, they didn't necessarily like me. They weren't really welcoming of African Americans. They weren't welcoming of Black people. So
I don't even think they made an attempt to learn.
Yeah,
I mean, it was just like, this is the ruler, this is the way it is.
For sure. For sure.
We're not even going to attempt to figure out the differences based upon people that don't look like us, don't
Absolutely.
live, in our neighborhoods, don't,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's a huge aspect of it. So I think when you're talking about it, that's an aspect that has to be acknowledged. Like some of the things that we're going off are like outdated, antiquated, and normed off of people who were not receptive to people of color. Another thing I remember reading so every counselor has to take multicultural counseling course, and they had every race listed except for Caucasians, except for white people. So like so I'm reading a book, we're learning about myself, learning about my own culture, and some of the things I'm like, this is not true to my experience.
Yeah.
Like this is not true. And I'm reading about Asian Pacific Islanders, I'm reading about Latinos, I'm reading about all these different cultures, and then we get to the end, I'm like, well, what about Caucasians? And like it's not listed. So I'm like confused, and again I asked my professor, so like, why are white people listed? What if I don't feel comfortable and I don't know how to work with white people? What kind of literature can I read? And he's just like, it just doesn't exist. So it goes back to, it's a field that's not necessarily it's not the most well encompassed field. So when you talk about black people or black males not going to counseling, and then on top of that, I'm sorry, I'm kind of being long with it.
No, go ahead.
But then on top of that, the lack of representation in the field. So kind of the hindrances that I had. For one, when I went in graduate school, when I went to counseling, they didn't have any African American counselors. So I chose a Caucasian woman, but I didn't have a lot of options. So for somebody who's already apprehensive about going, and I can't talk to someone who looks like me, who can kind of identify with my apprehensiveness, can identify with me being uncomfortable, that's going to be a barrier.
Right. And I was even thinking, it's like with your friends, did you talk to your friends, tell them you were going to counseling?
I didn't. It was something and then I was in such a bad place. I was dealing with heartbreak for like the first time, that I was kind of closed off. So, in Pembroke, I was by myself. So all of my friends, I was the only one of my friends who went to graduate school. So all my friends were like working, like they were in their field working jobs. So my schedule was different. When they were kind of at home, I was in class from 5:30 to 7:30 or 5:30 to 8. So it was just really different, and it was kind of hard to communicate. But even with that, I didn't want to do it anyway because I was in.
Yeah, because I was thinking, it's like if nobody talks about it in the home going to counseling.
Right.
So it's not like you've ever heard people talk about the whole counseling process.
For sure.
And then your friends aren't talking about it to you. It's just like so scary to walk in there, and it's like you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going to say. So I think that's the piece too, which I'm glad you're here talking about it, is to talk about your experiences, focusing on your mental health, saying, to do the best and be the best, my mind needs to be as healthy as my body.
Which is why it's so important on the college campus, because if I hadn't gone my last year of graduate school, like I would like to think that I would have passed the exam and been fine, but I really can't say with all certainty. After we started that therapeutic relationship, it was extremely helpful, and it helped me kind of conceptualize and put my situation into perspective, and that really helped me as far as moving forward. And like that wasn't the end all be all though. So I think one of the misconceptions about counseling is you go to counseling, you'll have this conversation, and then whatever issue you came in there with, it will be fixed. But that's really not how it works. It's kind of building a foundation for you to work through whatever it is that you're working through. So it's not advice. It's not a one-stop fix. It's a kind of like a foundation for you to work through. So for me, I was able to like help build a foundation with my counselor, and then from there, I could kind of move forward with my life.
Yeah, because I was thinking, it's like not whining.
No.
And it's not a sign that you're weak and not, like a sign that you're out of control and that you're not strong enough.
To me, it's actually the opposite. It's kind of a sign of strength. So I understand what I'm dealing with, and I'm smart enough to know that I need somebody else to help me with this. I'm strong enough to know that I need help. I don't want this to bring me down, and I'm not naive in the sense that I feel like I can do absolutely everything. Like, no, I need help.
Right. And it's like there's no way that you know everything.
For sure.
And that's actually the problem, is when you think you know everything, you're, kind of in more danger than knowing, like, no, there's things I don't know and there's things that I don't do well, and that's okay. So I'm going to surround myself with people that do know what I don't know, and people who have strengths that I don't have.
Like when you're 21, you think you know everything. Like, it's like, what do you mean I don't know this? Of course I do.
And we're sorry to everybody listening.
Right, and it's okay because I was that same way. I only learned this in my sage years of being 26. But when I was 21 and 20, like, of course, I felt like I had all the answers. I think we all do. That's part of the hubris of being young and, still having that safety net. So you're not in the real world yet. So like certain things just aren't a concern. So of course, like, everything is fine. Everything is cool, and that's just how you look at things.
Now, what do you do now to maintain your mental health? Because it's, kind of obvious when you're in crisis,
For sure.
To go to counseling. But there's also the extremely important part of maintaining mental health.
Right. So for me, it's a couple of things. So I meditate every day. There's an app that I use called Calm, CALM, and I tell everybody about it. It's free. And meditation helped me as far as just like teaching me patience, teaching me to be mindful, to kind of slow down. So a big part of my self-care and my mental health is making sure that every day before I come to work, that I'm in a good space mentally, so that like my head is clear, I'm calm, I feel good, my body is relaxed. And so a big part of that is meditation. Meditation helps me achieve that. Exercise, as far as like, I do like at least 3 days, but I try to aim for 4 times exercise in a week just to get a good sweat. It's really good for your brain to run and to get some of that cardiovascular exercise, to get your cardio in. Just as far as just feeling good about yourself. When you exercise, you get active, you just naturally feel good. So for me, it's meditation, it's exercise. I do yoga. I picked up yoga last year, and it's great. So it's yoga, it's exercise, it's meditation. Those are the primary things. But also I talk to my friends. So me and my friends have an ongoing group chat, and like I'll talk to them. I talk to my girlfriend. So I do things that I enjoy. So a big thing I tell college students is, especially this summer, I'm like, hey, so what are you doing this summer? Like, do something fun, do something that you enjoy, like have fun. Like, you're on summer break, like go travel somewhere, go to a concert, go out and have a good time. So a big part of self-care is just doing things that you like, and kind of while you're doing it, realize that being in the moment. So not being on your phone, like you're out at a concert, not necessarily being on your phone recording everything, but it's kind of being in the moment and enjoying the experience. If you're out to dinner with your friends or your significant other, being there, being present at that time and really taking in the experience. So those are all big things for me. Just meditation, exercise, yoga, and then just communicating with the people that I care about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you had to take some chances with the meditation and the yoga.
Oh, for sure.
Doing it for the first time.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, I think that's the thing, is just because something worked in the past doesn't mean that there's not something out there that you can give it a try just to see, how it benefits you,
Oh, yeah.
and it may not, you know.
When I started meditation, I didn't feel like it was for me. So I started the summer of 2015, and it was really hard for me to focus. Like my mind was, because our minds are trained to think. So it was really hard for me to kind of focus and, you know, lock in on my breathing. And I felt like I wasn't doing it right. And I was like, man, all right, this just isn't for me. I'll try something else, but kind of sticking with it. Maintaining that, all right, this is something that might help me. And for me, it was something that I wanted to do. So even when it doesn't go well, I knew that, all right, this is something that's beneficial. So I'm going to keep trying. But in the same thing with yoga, it's very humbling to not be able to do a certain position or do a certain pose. And it's just like, man, I thought I was in pretty good shape. I thought I was pretty limber, but turns out you're not. But
have you done
those
the
things,
headstands yet?
Man, not yet. But the first time I tried down dog, and I felt my quads and all that, all those things. I was like, man, this is so uncomfortable. It's kind of humbling, but it's good. It was a good experience. But yeah, kind of how you said in the beginning, it's kind of like that. This is not for me. Maybe I need to try something else, and everything that comes with kind of some of that self-doubt for sure.
Yeah, because I was thinking with the meditation is so important, especially for a college student. You have so much anxiety.
Oh yeah.
You know, and you're responsible for 22 things in a day, you know, and you can't figure out like how to prioritize them. Man. Yeah, just doing 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, it's like you're training your brain like you would working out trains your body.
For sure.
So you're training your brain to be in control. So you can say, yeah, I've got 22 things to do, but right now I have enough control over my brain where I can just focus on this one thing.
And the best thing I ever learned was to meditate before I go into session. So before I leave the house that morning, I would meditate and just kind of clear my mind and just feel really good. And then when I had to write a paper, meditate before I do my paper. So just like getting in that space of calm, getting in that space of being patient, and letting things flow naturally, not having to have control of everything is huge. So yeah, it's extremely helpful. I burn a lot of incense also. Like in my house, I always have either like a candle burning, some sage or incense. Like I'm big on smells. Those help me relax. So that's another part of self-care that's like really important. Just being comfortable and being comfortable in your skin and comfortable in your own environment.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's, I think, with student support services, what we're always trying to do is to make sure you have as much as, you know, to make yourself comfortable.
For
and
sure.
that goes back to, you know, food, housing, tutors, support system, you know, and then it does get down to the, you know, your home environment. Are you doing what is actually best for you?
Right.
Because incense may be good for you, but it may, you know, there may be something else.
Right, for sure.
For somebody else.
And I think it's great with what we do here with student support services is just giving that support to students. So it's not just academic. Like you have tutors and you have programs and you have academic coaching, but there's also just that personal support, just that space to come in and talk and just hang out. Like students come into the office all the time and just hang out and talk about anything. That's really important for your mental health. If you have a break in between class and you can just go. I know students are always in your office talking to you, and students are always in Courtney's office or mine or Kyle's, and they can just come and hang out and relax, and you can kind of just have a really good conversation in between class. Mentally, you just feel better. Like when we have good conversation, that's like stimulating to our brain. We feel better. So it's nothing for the student to have that good conversation, then go to class and focus because you feel good.
Yeah, because, you know, even superheroes need breaks.
Oh, yeah,
you know, like
absolutely.
you don't have to try to do it all and don't try to do it all on your own.
For sure. And that's a big part of counseling is kind of accepting that I can't do everything on my own and that there's somebody here who wants to listen to me and wants to help me out in any way that I want to be helped. So yeah, I think that's one of the benefits and parts of counseling is that you don't have to be a superhero. There's somebody here to listen to you and be here for you and empathize for you, and whatever path that you set that you want to set out on, the counselor will be like, okay, cool, like let's go with that and let's see what happens.
What else do you think students need to know?
So as far as counseling, or just as far as just mental health on campus, being aware of your triggers. So like stress is huge, and we know like the huge times of stress, like midterms, finals, even sometimes the beginning of the year, because you have all these lofty expectations and goals and you want to start out on the right foot. So being aware of your mental and physical triggers, knowing when you're not comfortable, knowing when, like, say you just got off of work at like 9:30 and you have homework due and you have a test due and everything like that, being able to structure your assignments, but also know that, well, I have these things due, but right now it's just not a good time. Like if I study or if I try to study, this just is not a good time for my brain to focus in and lock in. So maybe I need to just wake up earlier in the morning and do these things, like being aware of your triggers, like when you're stressed out, whether you're anxious and your underarms start to sweat or your palms get sweaty. For a lot of people, a lot of stress occurs in your back, in your lower and your upper back. So kind of being aware of, like, if you have random back pain, not just attributing that to, oh, I just worked out, or I must have slept wrong. Like, no, it might be stress, it might be anxiety. So kind of being aware of your mental and physical triggers. And that's a good way to go for, okay, so I'm feeling this, what may be going on? And then you can kind of evaluate what you have on your plate. And if you have a lot on your plate, you can kind of do some diagnosing on your own. But okay, I may need to cut back on this or that, or I may need to go talk to somebody.
Because that's the thing I actually advise too, is even a lot of transitions is stressful. So you have class, meetings, work off campus, then come back to a meeting. It's like all those transitions in itself are stressful.
Right.
To kind of streamline your days so that you're not running back and forth all of the time.
For sure.
So even though it's like, well, I should be able to go to class, have a meeting, go to off-campus work, come back, and it's just like, well, no, all of those transitions are stressful in itself.
That's a lot. So you wake up that day and you're on your way to class and you're thinking, I'm not going to get home. So you're leaving your apartment at like 8:30 maybe, and you're like, I'm not going to get home till 8:45 tonight. That's a lot on your plate mentally, because you're going to be out all day. You're going to be tired. So it's like, okay, well, what am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to eat midday? I'm going to be hungry. I don't want to be running on fumes. You have so many things going on in your mind, and that's just like a normal Tuesday. And that's part of the wanting to be active on campus. Then you may have to work to support yourself. So those are just some of the things that college students deal with, that people are kind of eager to, just say, oh, it's nothing. Like you're young, you'll be just fine. But no, like that's a lot of pressure.
Well, actually, and we forgot to talk about it, is the amount of stress that goes along with money.
Oh man.
I mean, just in general, people hate talking about money, hate thinking about money, or, it gives them such bad anxiety and stress. And so it's the fact of just like not having enough money, even if it's $5, like the amount of stress that just naturally has nothing to do with you. Just, it's almost like a human experience that money is stressful.
Oh yeah.
And so of seeking help with that it's probably always going to be stressful, but how are you going to manage it so that it doesn't become a problem?
I saw a study a couple years ago that said that being broke, or it was either being broke or being homeless or both, is like the equivalent of being stressed out every minute of every day. And that's a lot. So when you have $15 and that $15 on Monday needs to last you till Saturday, that's a lot, because you're thinking, all right, so I can spend $3 today at McDonald's or something, and then maybe $4 here, and then it's like, oh, well, now I only have X amount of dollars. That's a lot. And then on top of going to class every day and then studying and then performing well on the test, man, Money is probably the biggest stressful factor for students, not just on a day-to-day basis, but knowing that you have loans taken out. So I have to do well to make this loan worth it because I have to pay this back, right? So there's so much pressure and stress that comes along with money that, again, that people don't always like to acknowledge for whatever reason. But yeah, college students definitely have a lot on their plate, and money is a big part of it.
Yeah, and that's the piece where you can go to counseling for that. Yeah. I mean, that's the number 3 reason why people go to counseling at NC State is for financial reasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I mean that's the piece of it that nobody's going to write you a check for $10,000 probably, but there's a way. Yeah, I think you'll have to talk to some different people about that. But, right. It's like that you can go in and talk to about a person is like, no, they're not going to be able to write you a check for $10,000, but they are probably going to be able to help you with just a mindset about money, what you can do so that your thoughts and feelings about money don't negatively impact your life as much.
Absolutely. And so much of our self-worth is tied to money. So I make X amount of dollars a year, so I'm this. And if for a college student, I have X amount of dollars in my bank account, so I'm this. Yeah. So much, we tie so much of our self-worth to finance. And when you don't have a lot of money, or you have a very limited income, or you have a very limited amount in your account, it's hard to kind of separate that from who you are. Because I think just in America, that's kind of our tendency. People define themselves by how much they make and what they do for a living. And when you're lacking in one area, it's hard for that not to affect your whole being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I've just recently been able to say, no, finances is a stressor for me. Like, no, I can't do that, but it's like the trying to do what everybody is doing, especially in college, that it's so expensive.
For sure.
And everybody's going out and everybody's doing these things. Right, and it's hard to be the person that's like, nope, I can't go. And if I go and spend that money, I'm going to be so, freaking stressed out. I'm not going to be able to handle it. So it's best for me, to stay home.
I remember a situation in undergrad when I was working at Goose, which was like the worst job ever in my life.
But everybody loves it.
I do too. I thought that I would, that would carry over to being behind the counter, but it did not. But I remember
they're not that good.
They're not. No, they're really not. But having to work because I had to support myself, and I remember my friends had went down to Chapel Hill for a weekend, and they asked me if I wanted to go, and I was like, of course. And I thought I would be off work by a certain time, and I wasn't. But I remember sitting there looking at my phone, looking at the missed call because I couldn't answer the phone, and knowing that I have to be here though. Like, I need this income, so I have to miss out. And that was like, it wasn't stressful, but it was a lot on my mind. Like, I was like, man, this sucks.
Yeah, not having a choice.
Yeah, right, exactly.
You're working out of desperation.
For sure.
Even.
For sure. For $7 an hour, the worst experience of my life. But I remember that, I remember just that feeling of knowing that, man, even if I wanted to go, I can't because I have to be here because I need this check because how else am I going to pay my rent?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard when people say, oh, you work too much or just call off work and it's like, I'm not there out of choice. It's like I can't choose not to be there.
I think that's an option. I think that's it's an obligation. If I had a choice, I would not be here. But, based on my circumstance, it behooves me to work and get some extra income. So you add that into some students that work till 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, and then they have class at 9 o'clock that Wednesday. And then you're showing up and you're kind of running on fumes, but you're not eating breakfast and you're drinking energy drinks and everything like that. It's really easy to go into a downward spiral with college.
Yeah, and we didn't even talk about that with the nutrition on your huge mental health.
Oh man, that's huge.
Too much caffeine, junk food. That all impacts your mental health, sure. Your mood.
I knew that I was getting older when I was asking students, did you eat breakfast today? And they would say no, and I would get upset. I'm like, why not? Why aren't you eating breakfast? Like, it's so important. But like you have to feed your body the fuel to last and do. So like kind of that scenario we talked about earlier with you have class, then you have work, and then you have a meeting, and then you're only eating like, you're running on just fast food, and it's just not in your best interest. But yeah, like your diet absolutely affects your mood. Absolutely. And if you're not eating well, you're putting bad things into your body, and then you're expecting your body to support you through everything that you have to do. And then when you actually are stressed out, man, that's just it's really, really easy. And that's the thing. It's extremely easy to just fall down. Like one bad week for a college student can be really, really detrimental.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why seeking help, there's just too much going, or too many challenges, too many things that are just difficult for anybody. And so, get as much support as you possibly can, and it's free.
It's absolutely free, and it's natural to feel everything that college students feel is absolutely valid. So it's okay to go in there and find a counselor and talk about your relationship and talk about the issues you're having with your boyfriend or girlfriend, or the issues you're having in this class, the things to you that are kind of like, man, like this really shouldn't even be an issue, but it is an issue, and that's okay. And going to talk to somebody about it is extremely, extremely helpful. So I definitely encourage mental health awareness. Be aware of your mental health. Have check-ins with your friends. Make sure check on people that you care about, and hopefully those people are checking on you. But definitely be mindful of your body's triggers. Be mindful of just how you feel. Take inventory of how you feel every day, and then it's like just take care of yourself. Absolutely.
That's great, Bradford. Thanks for talking.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me on. I hope that the students were able to take something from this, and I'm available on campus. So definitely, if I can be of any resource to you, definitely let me know.
Yep, just Google Bradford Hill.
Yes. I'm in Park Shops 204M.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bradford.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you.
TRIO Student Support Services Program and Student Support Services STEM are federally funded college retention and completion programs. These programs focus on academic, personal, and career support for under-resourced undergraduate students. At TRIO SSS and SSS STEM, our goal is helping our students reach their goals. We are currently accepting new students to our program. Apply today. Go to www.ncsu.edu to learn more about student support services at NC State.